So, what is prompting? When looking into using AI for data visualization, one term that might come across when you Google for it is prompting. So AI systems like ChatGPT or Claude lately, yeah, Gemini, all of them are called large language models. At least those chatbots that you use that say, hey, I am an artificial intelligence, those are large language models. Often this is abbreviated with LLMs. Um, those systems are trained on massive text datasets and also a lot of other datasets, and that's why they called like large language model, because it's a large amount of language that were used to train those models. And through this training, those models learn patterns and relationships between words in language. And so by giving those models a starting point, like a question, a large language model can use those learned patterns to generate a plausible response to you. Don't forget, those are just responses given based on your question, based on the relationships and based on the information this model got from the text corpus it was trained on. So it's not an intelligence as we would might think of intelligent life. But this is maybe also more of a topic for a philosophy lesson and less than one for here for how to do data visualization. So to start getting what you want from a large language model, like for example, data visualization or Python code for data visualization, the starting point is what we call a prompt. So it's the question that you address to this large language model, and the so-called prompt engineering, which is not really engineering, is like just finding out clever ways how to ask questions. Yeah, so you might remember the research question thing, and asking the right question is quite important, especially when working with a large language model. So by doing this prompt engineering, and by designing a prompt or by defining a question, you can influence the output that you get, and you can train that to get more or most efficient outputs from large language models and get better outputs from large language models. We'll spend most of this course here on tips and tricks for engineering the most effective prompts, so you get to your goal in the end as fast as possible and as sustainable as possible, because the models might change, but the way of asking often stays comparable or stays the same. So one of the most important tips is to remember that the interaction with an AI or with a chatbot assistant is iterative. So you don't have to define the best prompt and question in the beginning or from start on, but often you can refine it. You can just start with a first question and then refine over time. Sometimes, so keep in mind, sometimes also there might be an end of this, as this large language model has to keep all of your questions and all of the context in memory. And sometimes when you run out of that memory, then it forgets your first question. But with working this iterative way, you can also re-ask the same question just with more nuances and with more information again and again. So in fact, often it's more efficient also and more powerful to do this back and forth conversations with the AI assistant till you get to the point where it gives you the response you want. And often it's also a good idea to edit your questions and not just asking new questions, but editing and then refining it so that you get an iterating and improvement of the response over time. So how do you start and structure an AI conversation? So some of the main points how to structure your conversation is, at first you have to explain your goal. So those systems are not intelligent on their own, so you have to tell them what you're doing. Yeah, so I'm working on an analytics report or about hotel cancellations, for example. Yeah, so you have to set the frame, and this is you can compare it with you are asking a friend to help you, and that friend doesn't know what you're doing. So explain your final goal. So what you want to get out? What are you working on? What is the context? Yeah, so providing context. So what do you have? For example, I have 3 data frames with the following names, or I have this and that data source, or I plan to use this and that data source. Yeah, this is setting like the context. So stating your request clearly is also important. You have to be precise. You have to be pinpoint on. Yeah, so please write a query to determine cancellation rates by month. So the more precise you are, the more precise will be the answer you get. So if you tell it, hey, please write a query, you will get it in any language. If you say, hey, please write a query in Python or in SQL or whatever language, it is more precise. Sometimes it remembers from your prior conversations with the large language model. Okay, you're working with Python, so it will give you a response in Python. But still, often it's a good idea to narrow down where you want to go, what you want, and again to review and refine so you can explain um, pieces of your query. You can ask the AI to explain those pieces and then regenerate and better understand what you get as a response and do this iterative work with the AI system, because the system on the other side also learns what you want from it. Yeah? At least in this one conversation. And continuing conversations also might be a good idea. So, like reinforcing that the answer you got is good, so that's great, for example, yeah, which we would do maybe also with a human or with an animal, yeah, saying, okay, this is good, this is bad. You also train within this conversation what is the response you want to get, and that way also you have additional context for follow-up questions. So if it already knows what are your data sets, where are you working, what's your context, what's your final goal, then it's easier to include other reports, to include other data sets, and so on. Also here is a guide on prompt engineering. So with this prompting guide.ai, there you get additional information. It's quite extensive, but have a look. I think it's a good source for information on learning how to do better prompt engineering, but also don't get lost because it's just a part of working with data, and you should be able in the beginning to do data visualization on your own, but AI can help you to do that. But still, I think it's a good thing to understand data visualization before completely handing over to AI systems.
So now there are different ways and types of prompts. So you can have an open-end prompt, which is especially good for brainstorming. So you ask open questions which are less specific and a little bit broader. You can use it to reduce the amount of time spent writing prompts. So you can say, okay, I have this data. What should I look into if I want to visualize this data? And then the chatbot will give you options. Yeah? It's especially good for exploration of the data without constraints. So you can also upload a sample of your data if you like to do that, and tell the chatbot, okay, I want to visualize it and I want to get out, for example, with the hotel cancellation rates. Yeah? And then you can ask the chatbot, okay, how should I visualize that? And then you can decide where to go based on the results you get from the chatbot. But you can also do it more goal-oriented, so you can be more precise and you can constrain the responses, like defining, okay, please do this and that specific calculation. This is especially good for complex tasks and can be set up on the open-end prompt, so you can further refine and define what you want, and you can control more what's the output like. Yeah, so you can for this goal-oriented prompting, what I already explained to you, you can set your overall goal. You can also give it, for example, your current code state, so what you already programmed. You can describe further your data set. You can give it, for example, if you have data frames, you can just give it a sample of the data frame by calling .head. and you can also outline what the code should look like and provide important details, so you can really work with the output that you get from your from the chat bot. So how can this work with Python? So on the left you see a screenshot of a Jupyter notebook. So in here you have the data frame hotels, which gets called by the pandas library. So read comma separated value CSV. So you're reading in data and you're calling .head to get an overview of the first 5 rows of this data frame. And you see now, okay, you have like a table, and there is cancellation with zeros if there is no cancellation. Yeah? So you can now use different Python libraries, for example, using Seaborn. Yeah, you can define an prompt that you can ask now to a chat bot. So for example, you can call it and say, using Seaborn, please create a bar plot of the is cancelled column in the pandas data frame hotels. And you can also tell the chatbot, okay, and please give me back the graph, and then you can give it, for example, the hotels.head screenshot data. Yeah, you can just copy paste it also to the chatbot, and then it will do a quick draft of how this diagram can look like. Yeah? And if you look at the diagram now, you see, okay, the axis labels and tick marks here aren't the most explanatory. So someone looking at our report might not know for sure that one corresponds to cancelled reservations, or that count is the number of distinct reservations with that status. So we can further refine our prompt to get a better representation and better visualization of the data. So for example, you could do a second prompt after that and say, using Seaborn, please give me the Python code to create a bar plot of the is cancelled column in the pandas data frame hotels. So far so good. And you can now specify is cancelled is 1 for cancelled bookings and 0 for bookings that are kept. Add in meaningful x-axis ticks, axis labels, and a title. And then you will get back Python code like the one here in this code window. And you can now run that, for example, within your Jupyter notebook, and then get back a graph. And that way you can iterate your Python code, even though you might not fully have done the same if you would have coded it yourself. It would have taken you maybe even longer. Maybe you also would have not known how to solve a specific problem with Python or with another programming language. So using AI, I'm saying AI because actually it's not an artificial intelligence, a large language model, yeah. But this can be a helpful tool, especially if you're not so what you should not do is just upload your data and say, hey, please give me a graph. But if you're getting back the Python code, you can look through it. You can identify, for example, errors, because sometimes those LLMs also give you back Python code which might simplify certain things. So it might change your data, and so you can look through Python code if you have it, and then run it in your Jupyter notebook, and that way ensure that your data visualization is correct, what you get back. Yeah. And so I'm going to show you on the next slide, on the next small video snippet, how to now work with a large language model if you are a student of the University of Bayreuth, because the University of Bayreuth is giving you access to different AI tools. And so let's look into how you can do that with tools you get from the university. So how can we now work with the tools of the University of Bayreuth? So if you go to this URL, its.uni-bayreuth.de/en/AI, or you just search for AI use at the University of Bayreuth, you come to this website. You can scroll down here and you find access to the academic cloud, which gives you access to Llama, to DeepSeek R, Suricata LM, and different other large language models that are available within the University of Bayreuth. You can just log into the academic cloud with your BT credentials. But you can also access the Microsoft Copilot. Just click on this link, use your BT number at myebt.de, and then you will be forwarded to the website of the University of Bayreuth. There you log in, and then you come to the chatbot here. And I already copy pasted our prompt in here, and I wrote also here, please give please give back the graph based on the following sample data. So we just can go to the Jupyter Notebook to get the sample data. So as you can see here, I already imported pandas, and I also called .head to get an overview of the data. So we're importing pandas and running read CSV of the CSV, the comma separated values file. And then we run the .head command to get a sample of the data, so the first 5 rows. But when calling that, we can already see, okay, all of this here in the column is cancel is 0. So we need a more representative sample of our data. So we call .sample 10, which is giving us a more representative sample of the data. So when running this, we get a lot of data back. So we can just copy paste all of it, all columns of it, just copy it and paste it to the chatbot. Just paste it here and hit enter, and then Copilot is doing its thing. So as you can see, so this might be not the best structured way to read as a human, but the large language model can work with all of the data. And so it's starting to analyze all of it. And then at some point it will give back, as we told it, hey, please give us back the graph. It will give you back the graph itself. You can say, okay, click away this pop-up here, and you see now the graph here. Okay, so maybe this is not very beautiful, and actually this is not a good representation of the data. So we can further try to refine this here. So I copy pasted, or I copied the new prompt that we had in the PowerPoint slide already. And so let's just modify it a little bit, because here we're asking for tick labels and for titles, but also we want to maybe differentiate the color, and so that it's a little bit nicer. And we also want to get back the Python code, so we can run Python code on our own in in our Jupyter Notebook. And so we write that command down and hit enter again, and then get back the Python code. So I have to wait a little bit again. So Copilot is compiling all the information in the background based on its large language system. So you can see it's now giving you back Python code in this canvas form. And you can now look at it. It's quite short, but it's nice. And so there's also a button to copy the code. So we just copy the code here, all of it, and go back to our Jupyter Notebook, and we can just paste it here and just run it. We don't have to modify it at all. So just click on run, and then let's see what's the result of it. And so we see now we have a better representation of the graph. So we have a graph. We could further modify it and iteratively improve our data visualization here. So for example, modify the y-axis text and so on. Can do that, don't have to do that. But this way is quite easy to improve your data visualization skills and improve your data visualization. But now maybe you also want to learn, because I'm suggesting that you don't only copy paste code and run it, but you also understand it. Especially if you're new to Python, you can go back to the Copilot, and there's a little description here what it is doing, but you can also ask it, hey, please describe to me what you did here. Please describe to me all of the Python code. And you can also highlight, okay, I'm new to Python, and let's do that and see what we get back. Especially if you highlight, hey, I'm new to Python, or I don't know this or that. And then it will give you back in detailed information. So going through code block by code block. So importing libraries, what are those libraries? what it is doing, how to create a plot, and it's describing each and every line of the code in detail. And so you are not only able to improve your data visualization, but you're also learning how to do good data visualization and how to program with Python, which might also be quite interesting because it's a skill that's very nice. Because yeah, you can do data visualization with Excel and so on, but with Python it's often way better and way more yeah, you can do way better graphs. And as you saw, it's quite easy. We took like 5 minutes to do it here this time. So good luck with Excel at the same time. Yeah, if you know a little bit about Python, it's quite fast to do data visualization, and good data visualization, especially if you're using LLMs.
So when using AI, especially in a learning context like this one here, pay attention to the fact that you have to learn. Yeah, learning is hard and learning is work. And so you should not outsource the learning to the AI. There's a very good video that I give you a link down here. You might want to watch it, but there are also now a bunch of other videos on that and also papers on it. So your brain on ChatGPT might behave differently. And there's something that is called cognitive debt. And so the accumulation of cognitive debt can happen when you are using an AI assistant for things like essay writing tasks. So pay close attention when you are getting into cognitive offloading. So your brain processing of information might include like connecting different informations, comparing them, yeah, having this bigger picture, connecting the dots, having your own schema of the information and of the work you are doing in your head, and that's where learning happens. Yeah, it costs a lot of effort, it costs a lot of energy, it is tiring, and it is building up this expertise. And if you outsource that to an AI, then you will not learn. Yeah? So this cognitive bypassing will give you the illusion of learning. So using AI to write the thesis, for example, gives you the illusion of learning, but you're not really learning. You're not building up expertise because the schemas are not coming from you. They are coming from the LLM. So pay close attention that you're not doing this cognitive offloading. Yeah? Using AI to find resources or a sounding board or to get different perspective for getting quick understanding also, for getting simple overviews or looking for gaps, totally fine. Yeah? But don't offload the hard part of learning. Don't offload the responsibility of processing and organizing information outside of your brain. Save time on the little repetitive tasks to save time for the hard part, but do the hard part yourself. And also be wary of hallucinations. So there is a lot about hallucinations in text that students wrote or also researchers wrote that the LLMs are hallucinating about sources that are not existing. That's very bad. Yeah, that's a violation of good scientific practice, and this is a reason to not pass a course if you have like an hallucination of your sources. You are in charge to check your sources, but the same can also happen when you are coding and when you're using AI for Python or whatever programming. So LLMs invent function names, they invent arguments, they invent dataset columns. Yeah, so verification and checking what the large language model is doing is important. So run the code in a sandbox, run it yourself, not only within the whatever large language model system you're using. So if you have like Python code that was given by ChatGPT, and ChatGPT said, okay, use this Python code and give you that figure, run the code yourself. Yeah, because you cannot trust the system that the code it gives you is the code it produces the figures with. Inspect the charts also against raw data that you have. Sometimes it invents or yeah, hallucinates additional data. So you have a better fitting picture, which is super bad. Yeah. So also check your axis labels, units, and scales, and so on. Sometimes you have mismatches there because the unit was not defined, and then it just invents one. Yeah. Also cross-check key numbers manually. So if you have numbers in your chart, always cross-check them. Treat the AI output as a draft, not as a result. You are in charge of ensuring that everything is fine. It's your thesis, it's your data visualization. You have to check everything, and it's your responsibility. You cannot just say, hey, okay, this was an error of the LLM. No, you are in charge of it. So check also all of the tools that you're using, and AI is just one of those tools that you have to check. And it's tempting to trust it, but don't do that. Also, always disclose the usage of AI. That's good scientific practice. And also, it is required by a lot of journals. And it's also a thing about integrity, yeah, because there's a German saying which says, wer einmal lügt, dem glaubt man nicht. So a person who once was lying, we don't trust that person. And that is also valid in science, and also valid when you submit papers, because sometimes journals will ban you if you lied to them once. Yeah, for example, about AI usage. So Nature, for example, has the rule that AI tools cannot be authors and must be disclosed. So they say, hey, it's okay to use AI for data visualization, for example, for coding, for reformulating, also for translating, but not as an author. And other journals like COPE say, okay, position statement on AI authorship. I say, or we say at the J, AI tools cannot be authors, and also it's your thesis, so they cannot be a second author. So all of the texts have to come from you. And as you are using grammar and spell checking tools, you can also use AI for that. But text and all of the work has to come from you. You can use it as a tool, but not as an easy way of doing your thesis, yeah, which is also not the idea of writing a thesis. You want to learn something and not just get a certificate or the ECTS. Yeah. Also, there are indications when people use AI, and if you don't disclose your usage, that will be a problem. Yeah, because still we have certain law in German universities about authorship and about disclosing the tools used to get to a certain point in your thesis. And as you are not allowed to use ghostwriters, you're also not allowed to just write a thesis completely with an AI tool.